Hello, welcome to another Aphex analysis. We're going to do the Waxen Pith today, yet again requested from Kaboshta. Nice one. Keep them coming. Okay, but first I just want to plug something quickly to the maybe like 50 people who might watch this video. If you like Aphex Twin, I presume you do, my label Zoitrax is releasing, by the time this comes out, will be released the album of a music producer called Caleb Peinado. The album's called Music for eSports, his first album. Not many people know about this guy, and if you like Aphex, you're probably going to like it. Aphex squarepusher Luke Vibert. He's an acid virtuoso from Olympia, Washington. Check out the album, link in the description. Just have a listen to it. You will not be disappointed. Thank you. Okay, so onto the video. So, the Waxen Pith from I Care Because You Do. Tiny backstory. This is probably the first Aphex album I can remember listening to. I found a tape in my friend Caroline's house. Hi Caroline. In about 1995 or 6. And I remember listening to it and just it sounding really weird. I couldn't get my head around it. But something about it kept me listening. And after repeated listening, I absolutely loved it. And the same thing has happened with all the other Aphex albums. Repeated listening and absolutely loved them. But listening back now, it's really interesting because the thing I never really noticed that much, how much sounds are like live instruments. I would say he was like playing violin even himself and recording it. But there's just a very unique sound to his music, and it makes me think of like how Charlie Parker, the saxophonist, when he kind of came on the scene in the late 30s, he sounded completely different from everyone else in jazz, and everybody else started playing like the phrases that he came up with, copying his vocabulary. And Charles Mingus said about that, if Charlie Parker was a gunslinger, there'd be a whole lot of dead copycats. Same applies to Aphex. His music sounds different from everyone else's, but lots of people try to copy it, but it's just a pale imitation, doesn't sound as good. But I'm still interested in taking it apart and seeing what makes it tick. And this is not like the video, like this is not like the video like Aegis Polis How Was It Made by GYU Beats on YouTube. If you've seen that one, it's a really great, a really brilliant reconstruction of the track, all the sounds like that. I'm not able to do that. I'm not that great at production, but I'm just more interested in the choices behind the arrangement and the note choices and the chords and the harmony. I'm really learn a lot from working out what happens in the tracks and seeing, what are the chords and what's the melody doing. The melodies in Aphex tracks are very unique, and they're like better. But what does that mean? Better melodies than many other people can come up with. Melody's quite mysterious to me, because how do you get better at writing melodies? There's one thing that I think about them is they're very lyrical, Aphex's melodies. It sounds like you would sing them, hum them, and I suspect that Aphex does hear the melodies. He doesn't program them like some of us do. Sometimes you just grab the pencil and you just start hitting notes in and you just come up with something that sounds good. But I suspect the best melodies are heard by composers, and jazz musicians say that too. They're hearing the music and playing it. It comes from somewhere else into your ear. Your mind creates it or sucks it out of the universe or something, but it's not like an intellectual process. It's something happening there. But that doesn't mean you can't get better at it, and jazz musicians practice for decades and decades and get better and better at hearing, and I've been working on that, training my ears, doing all that stuff to try and get better at hearing melodies. But still, when you hear a great one, it's hard to know exactly how to achieve that. So let's get into the track. Okay, so it starts with these really cool beats with the kind of noise hi-hats and the synthesized squidgy bass and bass drum. Really cool sounding beats, which go on without changing too much throughout most of the track. And then we hear this like violin-like line. When I used to listen to this, I never noticed that it sounded like a violin. I was just assumed it was synthesized. But now I'm not sure. It sounds like maybe recorded actual strings. I don't know. But anyway, what the strings are doing is they're coming in like very quietly. They come in just from nothing. Barely hear them. And then you hear this like violin-like line and a cello-like line underneath it. And what those lines are doing is playing this melody here. Whoops. So excuse the not perfect sound reproduction. I'm not after producing the exact same string sound as Aphex got. Someone else is better at that. I'm just looking at what are the notes doing, really. So I've got just some like any old violin here playing it. So it's similar enough for me. Oops. So it's playing C, B, C. I play it on the keyboard here. Oops. It's such a simple little melody. I can't believe it, actually. It's just all in the white notes. There's no black notes yet in this piece of music. And like, it's just, this is the thing, the mystery, right? Like, everybody has access to these 12 notes, and there's only 7 of them that are used, and not even 7 of the white notes. And like, how many millions of times has somebody sat down at the keyboard and come up with something, and yet most of the time it doesn't work as well musically as this thing does. That's where I come back to it's an idea that he heard this idea. Oh, that sounds good. Whereas mostly we're just kind of messing around but not really hearing something. Anyway. Okay, so it's basically like 2 chords. The whole song is like a 2 chord kind of thing. And another thing I wanted to mention before we go further is that, like, I'd read in an interview that he said he used to go to Philip Glass's apartment in London. And like, this is when he was 18 or something, he used to go over there and talk about music with Philip Glass. So that makes me think, I reckon that, he did think about music in terms of composition and talk to other composers about it. And this album, all this music is very composed and structured, and really a lot. I just realized today for the first time how much real instruments there is in his music. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but like, there's loads of them on drux, piano, prepared piano. There's loads of other things as well, like hurdy-gurdies and whatever, and Jew's harp, and even didgeridoo going right back then. Okay, that's not a recorded real instrument, but it's a synthesized version of a real instrument. There's tons of sounds that sound like real instruments in his music, and recordings of real instruments. Well, he's primarily known as an electronic music producer, but he's really more of a composer when you think about it like that. Composes for sounds. Some of them are electronic, some of them are acoustic. and you just get this result. It sounds great. When I was listening to it, I never really noticed that a lot of the time. I just considered it as electronic music, but it's really more than that. So there. Okay, so what would the chord? It would be like if you put these notes together, it'd be like maybe a C major 7 chord, and then a B maybe with a sus4, or G sus4. I mean, so very simple, very simple. It's like built around the notes B, C, and E first of all, and then G, B, and C. Okay, and then this cello line comes in almost immediately when you can hear the strings, and it sounds like this. So the cello notes are making you hear the chords as the first one's C. So there, C major 7 for sure. So C major 7, and then we do B, C, G. Yeah, so the chords are basically C major 7 and G sus4, or G major, and with the major third going to sus4. So definitely, like throughout his music, he likes major 7 chords and sus4 chords as well. Those kind of chords, you know, they have certain prettiness. They're pretty chords and floating along, and they just sound good. But it's so simple, but yet the best music is simple, but no one else thought of it. Why? Because it's like they just heard it like that. Okay, so continues going along. This higher line comes in on something that sounds like a piccolo or something, or a synthesizer, but it goes like very similar now. It's B, C, B, E, C, but it lands on a C, which is interesting. It's kind of some clash is there with the C and the B. So that 4-bar loop, that main section that goes around 4 more times. Let's listen to the original. Check that huge blast of reverb. That's great. That's something very Aphexy thing, that like reverb is not just what like it's supposed to be used for, is like to make sounds sound like they're in certain space, but you know, and like really like I don't know, pop productions, you don't really hear the reverb because it's just there making the sound better, I suppose. But in the way Aphex uses it as a sound itself, like just a sound, something blasts into big reverb tail. It actually goes around 5 times, that section, before the next thing happens, which is that these chords come in. So it's very like layered, kind of modular. What I mean by that is the very first violin line, that kind of keeps going all the way through, and then other things come in and it gets layered up, which is like similar to some Philip Glass compositions and that kind of minimalism. It's not so much new section comes, it's like more like blocks going along, and then things are added and taken away. So these chords that came in there, I spent quite a long time trying to figure out exactly what they are. I might not have got it 100% perfect, but this is pretty close. Oops. So they come in like... So it's something like C, F, and G. So that's like a C sus4 then, instead of a C, instead of a C major 7 before. It's got a suspended fourth there, nice suspended chord sound, and then the second chord is more like, could be a C major triad. So then we hear that as a C over G instead of a G. But the whole way through is a very simple progression, just a 5-1, or there just a 1 sus4 to 1. And there's lots of incidental nice harmonies created with the different parts coming in and out. So what happens after that? We have that chords continue 4 times, and then it drops back. The chords drop out. We have that higher part coming back in again, and then another part comes in then. Sorry for the not great sound of that instrument, but that line took me ages to work out for some reason. It's very hard to hear the notes. It's kind of a little bit in the background. Listen to it in the original. A bit further along. When this higher melody comes in. Which sounds like a synthesizer doing that. So the notes are G, F, A, G, F, A. Yeah, G, F, A, C, A, G. So another nice melody. A lot of 4-bar melodies joined together in this, and they just add up to something really nice. By the way, the album cover, he said he does a self-portrait that he painted himself. Like, what the hell? Just knock out a painting while you're at it. Like, where do you get the time to learn all the different things you have to learn with the like recording, the mixing, and the composition, and the synthesis, and the sound design? It's just like, it's mad. So that melody continues there for a good while. That melody, oh, very interesting, the interval jumps in that melody. This is the higher synth melody here with G, and then F down to A. So G down a tone and then a big jump down a sharpened fifth interval or a flattened sixth. F to A, F down to A, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes, yeah. And then jumping up an octave. Those bigger jumps there are unusual jumps in melodies. And then finishing with C, And at the time that's going on, you still have the bass line. So basically G, you've got starting with an octave and then seventh in the chord down to the ninth of the chord, or the second. So yeah, it's really nice, that little bit of melody that comes in there. It took me ages to figure it out. It's hard to hear. Anyway, keep going. So it keeps going. This is like 4 minutes and 49 seconds long, and I'm not going through the whole thing. Just one more bit, really, which is the best bit. It's really crazy. Have a listen. That happens, the cellos sound like they're getting bigger, maybe more reverb on them or something, and then that like E flat comes in. It's crazy. It's really dark. So this is my recreation of it here. So where it goes. Minor note just clashing with all the other E's or whatever. It's just like that dreamy quality where you're just like, it's all a nice floaty dream, and then it's a bit eerie. That's like sums up a lot of Aphex's music, like scary, this scariness. There's a lot of different emotions at different times in his music, from things you can't really describe, which is nice, but that really eeriness and scariness is a pretty strong feature, and humor as well. But so in the next section, that cello line kind of changes. Let's have a look at it. So from the first time, the E flat just comes in real scary sounding. Second time, it's a D natural clashing, then an E flat. And then the C sharp comes in then, and just really, that's wild. In the original. It's the D natural there. C sharp, real dissonance. Some serious dissonance. That's what it is. The scariness is the dissonance. But it's hard to use dissonance, like the same in jazz. If you're learning jazz, if you're learning to play jazz, you start off and like you hear all these notes that are dissonant, but they sound good. Like when Charlie Parker plays them, they don't sound dissonant, they sound melodic, flat ninths and sharp fives and whatever. And initially, if you just try and throw them in, they just sound all wrong. But that's why if you learn how to hear music like this, introducing these dissonant notes, doesn't sound wrong. Like no one ever, well, not no one ever, but like when you listen to this, most people don't perceive wrong about it. It sounds right because it's intended to be that way, because he heard it that way. It's just feeling, the track just feels like it got scarier. That is how to use dissonance. I'm definitely going to try and do some dissonance stuff after this. Okay, so after that C sharp, then it settles into a more repeating pattern like this. Diminished chord. When was the last time you put a diminished chord in your stuff? Okay, so this is about as far as I got with it. Okay, it's not perfect, but maybe 80% of the notes are there. So basically the chords are changing at this part to... Do we still hear the G underneath? A, C, and E flat. Yeah, I think it might be the chords are flipped around, so you've got C first, and then you've got the diminished chord over a G bass note. Yeah. So in that section there, the yeah, I think that's what it is. So that's it, an unusual chord. A C diminished over G in the bass. Or A diminished. A diminished over G, A, C, and E flat over G. That's an unusual chord. It's also like an inversion of a C minor 6. A diminished over G. Yeah, so maybe that it started introducing the C minor, and then maybe that's how he arrived at that. Is introduce a 6, the A natural is a 6 in the minor chord, so C minor 6 and then the G in the bass. So yeah, it's either an inversion of C minor or something else. Not 100% sure. But after that, the track drops back into just the high melody and the chords held. Pad, different, simpler. Section, the earlier chords from earlier come back in, this G sus and the C major. Beats get louder there at the end, and then the layers just come in and out, and there's no new material after that point, I don't think. So that is an overview of what is happening in this song. Summed up, it's like a really cool electronic beat with a 2-chord progression back and forth for the whole thing, which starts as a really simple just C, G chord progression with a bass line that's like C, so C, B, C, G. At the very beginning, when we first hear the melody, yeah, I'm hearing like that. It starts on C. C is the key. It's in the key of C. So C, do, 5-chord, G. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, so it's a 1-5 simple progression. But then later on in the song, it starts going to 1 minor and introducing some weirder, scarier sounds with the C minor 6 over G. Okay, gonna leave this one there. Hope there was some useful stuff in there for you. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do any other Aphex analysis videos, any other ones, or squarepusher or loop vibert or whatever. As long as it has melodies and chords in it, I'll do it. And Caleb Peinado, music for eSports, check that one out for Aphex fans. Zoitrax.bandcamp.com. And yeah, see you in the next video.